everyone, and welcome to SmartBug Untapped, the podcast where we unpack smarter strategies for growth using HubSpot and beyond. I'm Alexandra Whitmore, VP of Sales here at SmartBug Media, and I'm excited to be jumping in as your host today. I've spent the last several years working with companies across industries, especially in staffing, helping them navigate the messy middle of sales systems and scaling. If you ever feel like your CRM is more of a time suck than a growth engine, today's episode is for you. We're diving into what staffing firms get wrong about CRM strategy and what to do instead. From poor adoption and messy data to disjointed recruiter handoffs, we've seen it all. Joining me today is Casey Peddicord, SmartBug's Senior Director of Channel Sales. Casey's worked closely with both staffing firms and HubSpot's internal teams to help organizations get more out of their tech stacks and make CRM strategy a true driver of growth. Casey, I'm so glad you're here.
So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So jumping right in, Casey, why do so many staffing firms struggle with CRM adoption and usage?
My gosh, such a loaded question, right? There's so many things out there, but I can think of a few right off the top of my head. One would be user resistance, right? I think recruiters often see CRMs as like extra admin work instead of a tool that can really help them close more placements. So if they don't see immediate personal value, usually the adoption stalls a little bit, right? I think that also rolls into a leadership disconnect sometimes. It's like, so goes the leader, so goes the team. Like, you have to have that executive buy-in. If leadership is using it as a true CRM tool, reporting tool, revenue tool, rather than just seeing it as like, hey, I'm helping reps do some certain things, I think that adoption suffers, right? Like you need to be bought in there. A few other things that come to mind are going to be, maybe some poor initial training up front, change management. Like, was that laid out the right way? Did you have a partner be able to help you with that? Think about, that CRM as that race car. Did you have the crew, the pit crew, the crew chief being able to help you there? It could be a misalignment in process. Like, how fast-paced staffing is. Like, if the CRM isn't configured to match how recruiters actually will like source or engage or place candidates, sometimes it becomes more of an administrative burden than it does maybe a help. I would say the last thing is usually, and I see this all the time in the staffing space, it becomes data overload, right? It becomes a clutter. It's like too many required fields. You get duplicate records in there. You have, irrelevant dashboards. It can really make your system, your CRM system, feel more like a chore than a real, productivity center.
No, that's great. Those are all really valid points. With that being said, and you're thinking are some signs your CRM strategy might be costing placements or revenue. From your perspective, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think, some signs that I would look out for are going to be things like low data quality. And I think about things like incomplete candidate records, client records, duplicates, outdated information. It makes recruiters miss those opportunities. They waste time chasing maybe bad leads or not being able to connect with those folks. I think about pipeline blind spots. Like, if you can't accurately forecast client demand or candidate availability, you risk dropping placements and really lost revenue. I think
Yeah.
about, I got a few here. I love this topic, by the way. I think about manual workarounds, like when recruiters keep spreadsheets or sticky notes outside the CRM. I mean, yes, it happens. Like, we're all guilty of doing it, right? Like, I've got a sticky. I'm looking at it right here. Gosh, trying to put that all in the system, like sometimes that's really tough. I think about slow response times. Like, when you go without that automation or that visibility, staffing firms miss out on being the first to, for those candidates that are submitting, or being able to be the first to submit those candidates, which, just as well as me, that's a key differentiator in the staffing world. I think is more of like a rep frustration and turnover. Like, at the end of the day, if recruiters hate the system, they're not going to use it, right? You're going to lose the productivity. You're going to lose the people. The cultural cost directly hits that revenue. Sum it all up here for a second before you dive in. Like, if your CRM isn't helping the recruiters move faster, prioritize better, strengthen relationships, I think it's quietly draining your revenue.
Yeah. No, that's all very valid. I think back to when I first started in staffing, where everything we were not remote, you were in office, you were filling out candidate profiles by hand in a folder on a printed out a piece of paper, and then going back in and putting in all the information. So, to your point, bad information getting typed in, information being left out that's critical. And then just really, if there's duplicate people that are coming in, it could merge or not really have good hygiene in that data. So that's all very valid.
Yeah. And like that was your CRM back in the day, right? I remember that too. I feel like I'm old talking about this, but going back, I had the folders, had the boxes, and there's so much valuable information there, but it's almost, you can think of it also like, hey, that CRM is that box with all those folders. But imagine that, gosh, there's all this bad data in there. Imagine that you wrote something down on that folder with your eyes closed. Like you got to get the bad data out. You got to help people make it usable. And when it becomes usable, and then, you know, God forbid you talk about CRM being an enjoyable thing, but if you make it really easy
Yep.
and fruitful to use, I mean, sky's the limit there.
Totally agree. And there always needs to be good dynamic too between recruitment and sales. I mean, they're trying to bring in a client, recruiters are trying to close the client, so having that good communication, that good data flow is critical.
Yeah, 100%.
So, kind of leading into the next question with all of what we've talked about with data, having good workflows, what's the real difference between using a CRM and optimizing one?
Ooh, gosh, that's a loaded question, right? I think about using a CRM means that you're doing some of the simple stuff, right? You have a database where people are going to log calls, you're going to log the emails, you're going to log the candidates, keep the candidates up to date, job orders. It's essentially just digital record keeping, right? We talked about that box and you have the folders, same concept. I think about optimizing the CRM and taking it to the next level really means tailoring it so the system actively drives placements. And you do that through automation, you do that through candidate client matching, you do that through alerts, you do it through things like AI scoring, recruiter friendly workflows, and especially today, and I'll sort of brag on HubSpot here for a second, but you think about those agents, the agentic AI that can take it to the next level and really make one person be two, one person be four, one person be six. Gosh, that's really where you're going to start seeing people separate themselves from the pack moving forward. I would say last, if I had to like wrap it all up into a sentence, I think about using is just system of record. I think about optimization is a system of action. I think about owning a treadmill versus training with a coach, right? One just kind of sits in the corner. No judgment here. If you got one sitting in the corner, I'm actually looking at one right now, and sitting in my corner too. It's got an Amazon box on it. So obviously, I haven't used it today or this week. But one sits in the corner. The other one is actually going to get you results. And at the end of the day, they could both be the same system. That coach is going to train you using that treadmill, right? But you have a pit crew, you have somebody that's going to help walk you through that and show you what to do. And then after a while, yes, there may be some pain up front, but it really becomes enjoyable, especially when you start seeing results.
No, for sure. And that's a great analogy as well. So, really looking at how staffing firms should be using CRMs versus using it as more of a passive database. With HubSpot, as you know, actively is supporting the full life cycle. So that's the lead to client to placement with automation workflows and visibility. And past staffing agencies that I've worked for, we've had proprietary CRMs, and it's not really built to be sustainable for the amount of data that you're continuously putting into it. There has to be tons of cleanup. You have to make sure that all the records are up to date. As you said, there's turnover. People are leaving. Who does that go to? Who's in charge of that? So it's all looking at getting back to really utilizing the CRM as it's intended to be. It needs to support the full life cycle of the recruitment and sales process.
1,000%. Previous to my time, I used to work at HubSpot. And before then, I worked for basically one of the largest HRS companies in the world, and did a lot in the staffing space. It's one of those crazy things that a lot of folks just don't take into account is, when you have a CRM system like that that's built specifically for that industry, a lot of
Mhm.
times you're having to integrate or try to integrate or move data between a lot of other systems, right? Whereas like a HubSpot or something like that makes it, yes, it's a little bit more ambiguous up front, but you can pack more into it. And when you think about when you have those let's call them staffing agency type CRMs that are specifically built for that, but don't integrate with a lot of other things, or you're having to move the data quite a bit. You end up having these silos, right? And at the end of the day, those silos, there are gaps between those silos. Those gaps are soft costs. That is money that you are spending. And it's sometimes hard to put an ROI on it. But I know even back in the day, we used to talk about like hundreds of dollars per person per year, per employee of just transfer of data, right? When you could have something that's more robust. And yes, my blood bleeds orange, not just because I live in Knoxville, Tennessee, I'm a Volunteers fan, but because of HubSpot. HubSpot can really make that a much easier tie-in and keep that data clean.
It's so true. I've been making the joke lately where if I had had HubSpot earlier on in my career, how much different it would be. All the admin work I had to do, all the like manual logging,
But
emails and my calls and my meeting notes. Like today, I still have a notebook where I write everything down. But lately with HubSpot, it's like all your calls are recorded, your emails are instantly tagged. Not a lot of manual workflows anymore.
yeah, and you think about it, it's getting to the point, and gosh, it's right on the cusp here where, yes, today I feel like a lot of folks are stepping their toes into the AI portion, starting to use some certain things. Great to dip your toes in the water. What I'm seeing from a HubSpot front of like 6 months out, 12 months out, that all of that stuff that you're doing manually today comes in and is almost all completely done by AI. It's not there to necessarily like take over your job, right? It's there to make what used to take 2 hours to do, 20 minutes to do. And you still need the human touch there. You still have to like, gosh, and I keep thinking about, hey, when everybody's zigging, well, I want to zag a little bit, right? When everybody's zagging, I want to zig. And that's where I feel like, especially in the staffing world, that's where those folks are going to start separating themselves from the pack again. Like if you really embrace the AI portion, take it to the next level there. But if you have that human touch on top of that AI, oh my gosh, like you could be literally unstoppable.
All good pathway of what we've been talking about, and it really does lead into, from your perspective, because you have a lot of expertise here, what does a healthy CRM system look like for a staffing agency? And you kind of touched on this, but digging in a little bit deeper, for a staffing agency that has used a CRM system but not in the right way, what does a healthy one really look like? How should they be utilizing it?
I think of a few things. One is, you should have a unified view of candidates and clients. It's going to be a healthy CRM that ties together pipelines, relationships, open job orders. Like, again, we talked about those silos. No more silos, right? Or at least you're taking 10 silos and you're moving them down to 2, 3. I also think about, too, you talked about your folders, right? And the folders and the whole box and all that fun stuff. Like, a lot of those folders are in spreadsheets today. Getting those folks out of those spreadsheets. And again, not saying that you're not going to not use a Google Sheet at some point. Like, yes, you're going
Right,
to
of
have that.
course.
There's no way to usually entirely get away from it, but it becomes a true unified view and it becomes your source of truth and you enjoy using it. A couple other things that are top of mind are going to be, automated follow-up and reminders. Like, it is so hard from a recruiting point of view. If you are trying to keep up and trying to, again, separate yourself from the pack, it's so hard to rely on memory. Like if you're totally or just relying on memory or your sticky notes, you are behind, period. So I think about automating sequences. I think about, again, how do you take yourself as one person and duplicate yourself? How do you make 4 or 5 of yourselves? And things like, again, tying into HubSpot a little bit, but things like automated sequences, like task outreach, some of the agentic AI stuff, those things can help keep those relationships warm. Where you used to have a checklist of like, hey, I got to call Bobby today. I got to call
Yep.
Bobby tomorrow. I got to call Bobby Thursday. A lot of those things are done automatically now. A few other things that are top of mind are going to be like real-time reporting, legacy CRMs, we'll call them. You've seen ones that are maybe branded blue that have been around over the years. Some of those are built for leadership and they're sold on hey, leadership gets reporting. I still think that that's really important. I think it's easier. It should be a lot easier to do than it used to be, but there's no reason why today leadership can't see a healthy pipeline, instantly see like time to fill positions, instantly be able to do revenue forecasting without chasing down a bunch of manual updates, right? It should be your system of truth. It should also be easy to use for recruiters. Like the
Yes.
CRM fits into their workflow. It shouldn't be, if you had, you think about your workflow that you had with the different folders in your box, right? that workflow shouldn't be too much different. Like those really good recruiters back then, you should have a system that, yes, you may have to adjust slightly, but we don't want to just completely revamp the whole thing. It should be able to fit in their workflow. You should be able to do call logging. You should be able to have email logging. Like you should be able to update those candidates and stages quickly. It should be mobile friendly today. It should be AI friendly. It should be intuitive. It should make it really easy to do that. I will, and again, blood bleeds orange here. I lean towards HubSpot. HubSpot's really good about giving you not just one way to do or one way to do a certain thing. HubSpot's going to say, hey, there's 3, 4, 5 different ways to get to the same place, right? You don't have to take the highway to get to your destination. You could take this back road and it's an enjoyable drive. You could take this exit and get to the same place. Sort of that mentality. Last thing I'll say is clean, maintained data. At the end of the day, and again, I see it time in and time out when we're working with staffing firms, and even not just staffing firms, folks in all kinds of different industries. We dive in and we see their HubSpot portals, and they've spent so much time on this beautiful workflow. It's got all these different branches. It looks like the tree of life at Disney World, right? And their data sucks. They got a bunch of duplicates. There's all these records that are being enriched that don't need to be enriched. The system of truth, it's terrible, right? At the end of the day, yes, we can help you take it to the next level, but it's almost like building a house. And when you build a house, you want a really strong foundation. That clean data is part of that foundation. If you do that, you can have more simplified workflows that really scale a lot better for you. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, that's great. Again, analogies, perfect. Love them. This is probably one of my favorite questions I'm going to be asking you today, only because as you're in staffing and there's always that age old question, how does sales and recruiting work together? Fun fact, back in the day when we were in the office, we'd be like, shout across the wall because we worked in an open environment. Well, today you're not really shouting across the wall. Is remote and digital. So how should sales, marketing, and recruiters be working together inside the CRM?
Yeah.
What do you think are some good best practices or just some good foundation there?
Gosh, I remember when I started, we had cubes, right? And you were sitting in the room, hundreds of cubicles. And it was something that's really interesting in that space that's harder to get today is, folks could listen to folks who are really good. Like I think about being on the phone. And how do you recreate that? Like in a HubSpot or other CRM type of environment, it's so crucial to be able to pick out those certain things. And a lot of folks who have worked in that space for a long time sort of take it for granted. It's like, we do that. It's just sort of how we work. But that relationship between sales, marketing, recruiters, there's a few things that come to mind. One is like, let's talk about sales to marketing for a second. I think sales has to provide feedback on which clients and which industries are most active.
Yes.
So you have to relay that to marketing so that way marketing can accurately target the right campaigns, right? Without that feedback, and I feel like it should be I call it like a family relationship, and I'll brag on our VP of marketing here at SmartBug, Paul. Like me and Paul have really strong conversations, right? Sometimes we love each other, but it's like, hey, here's what I'm seeing. I want you to tell me what you're seeing too. And we're both really busy, but you have to be able to have that candor in there. And that really does help it take it to the next level. I think about marketing from a sales and recruiting perspective. Marketing runs the campaigns to nurture candidates, nurture the hiring managers. And then there should be some sort of like seamless handoff of warm leads directly into the CRM. And that's where the reps and recruiters can act on them. I think about recruiters to sales. The recruiters should be able to flag the candidate availability. They should be able to do placement timelines. They should be able to show like skill shortages. So that way sales knows which client conversations to prioritize.
Yes.
I think about all three of those. If we're stacking them all together, it really comes down to shared dashboards, automation. Like everybody should be seeing the same metrics in some of the same places. Yes, you may view the data a little bit differently, but everybody should be able to see things like placements won, clients engaged, candidates submitted. The collaboration between those departments has to be transparent. And when you don't have those systems, or you don't have those people working in the same systems, that becomes a problem. So I think about HubSpot again. blood bleeds orange. I think about HubSpot like is powered on the back end by shared objects, right? So you think about contacts, your objects structure, contacts, companies, deals, job orders. There's a whole slew of what we call like custom objects that are specific to the staffing industry. But those pipelines and how all that moves together is basically associations, right? And so HubSpot makes it really easy for the marketing folks to have their marketing dashboards, but still tie in all the sales stuff. Salespeople have their reports, their dashboards, but it still ties in all the marketing stuff. And then recruiters overall can see those again across different departments. So that way everybody's looking at the same source of truth. You're not having to send stuff into different spreadsheets or, hey, we got this post-it note here. Or like you, we may be yelling across the room, like you shouldn't have to do some of that stuff today. Yes, a Slack message is necessary every once in a while. I guess that's the 2025 version of yelling across the room, maybe in
Yes.
capital letters. But at the end of the day, you should see that all in one system and it should be beautiful. You should be able to see that.
It's great. Recap: visibility is key, collaboration, and communication. So there
Love
has to
it.
be all open lines of communication across all three areas with marketing, sales, and recruiters.
I'm going to write that down on a sticky note. Yes. Yeah.
One thing that you mentioned that I love is marketing and sales really does have to have a good, strong relationship. We're working together, not against each other. And I've seen that within organizations before where marketing's not really supporting sales, and sales, to your point, doesn't provide feedback. How are they supposed to shift and grow if they don't know where the gaps are happening or where the gray areas are? So I really like that you said that. There has to be a strong foundation, a strong partnership across really all three.
100%. Got to be rowing in the same direction. And you have to be able if the marketing person's in the front of the boat and the salesperson's at the back of the boat, you got to be able to yell at each other, have a little love. Still, at the end of the day, you're on the same team, should be rowing the same direction, but you have to be able to have some candor in there. Yeah.
Yep. We're all rowing in the same direction. One other thing that you mentioned that was really great that I like that you talked about. So obviously we have to have a lot of strong communication and collaboration. So within HubSpot, how do you think specifically HubSpot can help solve for the handoff and follow-up problems between departments? What does that look like?
Yeah, great question. I think, first of all, remove some of those cracks, right? Where, again, you had silos in old systems, you had your folders and your box. If we're putting all this in a HubSpot type system, you should be able to have, and it doesn't have to be crazy. It does not, oh my gosh, I can't emphasize this enough. It does not have to be the tree of life. It should not have so many branches that you log into this automation workflow and it doesn't it doesn't work. Or somebody that's new, this is always a great test that I use inside of HubSpot too. Somebody that's newer to HubSpot, like let them look at that. If they can't figure out at least the high level of what happens inside this workflow, it may be a little bit too complicated, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the best HubSpot instances that I've seen have linear workflows. Think about a skinny tree, and inside that skinny tree, it's very clear what happens. And then it enrolls maybe inside of another workflow. You get one and it enrolls in another, and you have a series of more linear workflows. It's way easier to keep up with. But from an automation standpoint, automation helps remove the cracks, is what I say. In HubSpot, when marketing qualifies a hiring manager lead, it's automatically assigned to sales. When sales closes the job order or client job order, task notifications, those triggers should go to recruiters. Marketing should be notified. Like those simple automations will go a really long way. I think about too, like visibility really prevents dropped balls is the way that I would say it. Like every note, every email, every call is all tracked on the same record. That way, nobody ever says, hey, I don't know what this person asked for. Hey, I'm talking to client and client told me this. I didn't know that before. I didn't see that this client had already been interviewed. Like you shouldn't have those specific things happening. If you do, screaming CRM, right? Like you got to have something there. A couple of other things I think about workflows, and it can sort of piggybacking off that automation, but more so around the sales side. And I'll use the word sequences. If you're familiar with HubSpot, HubSpot has workflows and sequences, two different things. Sequences is more towards the sales, kind of like a sales workflow, I guess you would say. But if a rep forgets to do some sort of follow up, HubSpot, if the system's really set up the right way, HubSpot should remind that person. It should, or even go the next step and just do the outreach for them. Should automate the outreach.
Right.
Like at the end of the day, no true opportunity should sit idle. Last thing I would say, gosh, I know I love this topic. Custom pipelines for staffing. Like HubSpot can be configured You've got candidate stages, you've got the client job order stages. All that stuff should flow naturally. Sales, recruiters, marketers, all across all the deals, should be able to be involved in that without any guesswork. Like HubSpot should turn the handoffs into handshakes. It's the way that I would say it. Instead of an information being thrown over the wall or yelling across the room, it should flow really smoothly. The system itself should help enforce the accountability, but it should do it in a way that is easy to use. You should feel like, and this is a too, your HubSpot instance should feel like, hey, I want to log in. I want to be able to see these things. I want HubSpot to be able to work for me. And for those of you who are listening who have worked in legacy CRMs or have worked in some of those staffing specific CRMs that maybe aren't just great from a UI UX perspective, sometimes you have that feeling of like, I got to log in and I got to put that stuff in there. Like it's a chore, and it shouldn't be that chore. It should be, hey, I got to this is it should give you that same feeling of like logging into Instagram or TikTok, right? See what's there. Like it should, and if it's set up the right way, some of that stuff's going to start happening for you. And that's where you really get excited inside of HubSpot.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, it kind of negates a lot of the manual things that sales and recruiters are consistently having to log or follow up on. So a lot of good points that you made, because a lot of times this can be automated, and that's what we need. We need time back in our day. If we could be helping one more person find a job or talk to one more manager, I mean, just think of the things that could happen. I always think about, as a sales leader, when I was training people, one more call could be that yes that you needed for that entire day. But think about having a CRM like HubSpot that could help automate that, or help kind of give you that boost of confidence to be like, this one more call could be the deal that I closed today. There's a lot
Yeah,
of good things that
absolutely.
come from it.
1,000%. You also think about that one more call could be one more client. It could be two more
Yeah,
clients. It
could
could
be.
be five more referrals. It could be 10 more clients. Like you just never know. And like, yes, we're definitely saying like there has to be some sort of balance there too, but 100%, like having something that's going to work for you and do your job better, right? It's just like the chat GPT, right? Like any of the AI stuff today, it's not going to take over and wash your dishes for you at the moment. It may get there, but it's not quite there yet. But how can it enhance what you're doing? How does it take it and duplicate you and make it a little bit better? 100%, I'm on the same page with you. Yeah, I love it.
I love that. Well, that's also, to your point, is they are going to take over and start washing your dishes. That's why we have kids, so they can do chores.
Actually, I hear my 12-year or 13-year-old back there doing dishes right now. So yes, yes,
Love
yeah,
that.
hard at work.
That's amazing. So one thing that I think comes up a lot too, and not to sidetrack or get off here, but even outside of staffing agencies, a lot of organizations that have robust internal recruiting teams or HR function and delivery use ATSs. So from an organizational standpoint that uses an ATS, how do you merge that gap with a smart CRM like HubSpot? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. From an ATS perspective, I think about, you know, a lot of times those ATSs have certain things that only ATSs will do. I'll give you this example of, hey, you put out a job posting, and that ATS, a lot of ATSs today will be able to send it to all these different job sites, right? And a CRM, while some of them may have sort of that functionality, sometimes you have to build that out custom. And so it's one of those things where I have personally seen certain agencies move completely away from an ATS and put it inside of a CRM. I have a lot of others that integrate those two. I think there are certain tools that are inside of HubSpot or other CRM that I don't specifically see in ATSs. Things like the sequencing tools, like some of the calendaring tools, some of the, hey, what has this person done? And clicking all the different things on my website, like what's the customer journey been? It's more, a lot of those ATSs, the Bullhorns of the world, and some of those others, like they lean more towards truly just the ATS experience, only I can describe it. So I do see a marriage there. And again, having somebody that's really experienced that has worked in both, and having people on staff that have worked in both, I think can really make it to where it's a seamless system without the silo.
100%. I think there's a lot of things that the ATS doesn't provide that obviously a CRM does. And even with the tie ins, it's still the functionality behind it. And ATS is just tracking that person that came to apply. That's all it's doing. It's not pulling any data from there. It's not really digging into their background and kind of aligning it with certain people. Where I think a CRM kind of comes into that play where you've talking a lot about that automation, where there is a lot of data points and data sets that can kind of help position where that person needs to be, who they need to talk to, what industry they're in, what job are they applying for. There's a lot of other instances that could be helpful there.
1,000%.
Love that. So, as we kind of wrap things up here and looking into some quick win staffing metrics, what's one thing, one quick win that staffing leaders can tackle this week to improve their CRM performance?
I think one quick thing would be to go and audit a pipeline or audit a workflow. Like go look in your instance and or whatever software it is, and then look at, let's say, a single job order pipeline and ask yourself, one, are there too many stages? Two, are recruiters actually using it? Three, are task and follow-ups automated, or are we still manually doing quite a bit? And could we automate it? From an impact perspective, it's like simplifying those stages and adding 1 to 2. Again, just a start, right? You talked about one more call, right?
Yeah.
One more automated reminder immediately is going to help you increase adoption. It's going to help you miss, the follow-ups. And I think a lot of times folks will, especially from a leadership point of view, executive suite, they often say or feel like they need a total overhaul. But a lot of times on our side, we feel like small, focused changes can really help create momentum or get a recruiter buy-in. And those little changes, that one call extra a day, at the end of the day, you're starting to separate yourself. And at the end of the year, you're here, and at the end of next year, you're here.
Yeah.
So that'd be my one thing to do.
No, that's great. And that's a good point too, because as we talk about the evolution and a long-term CRM strategy, what's a mind shift that leaders can take or to have be focused on that will help that CRM strategy evolve long term?
It's a great question. And I might have dropped this a little bit earlier, but I'll steal it again and use it again. I think shifting from a reporting tool to a revenue tool,
Yes.
right? There's so many people who use the CRM as something that, and you see it right now too. I see it quite a bit. Well, how do I pull reports for leadership? How does leadership see these reports? Like, there should be some sort of shift there. I'm not saying reports aren't important, but there should be some sort of shift there that says this is the engine that drives placements for us, that drives commissions for us. Like, this is the revenue tool that we use in our space. In HubSpot, that really means leaning into like automation, personalization, shared dashboards. Like, recruiters should be able to see the CRM as helping them close deals. We talked about that. And it's not just activity tracking. That also comes from that leadership buy-in. Like, when it comes from the top and you say, hey, this is our system of truth. Again, we're not trying to look at it just activity tracking. And I think that's sort of a default of CRM. It's sort of like the first step. It's like pouring the concrete on the front porch type thing. But, when your recruiters believe that the CRM actually helps them make money, your adoption and strategy are just going to evolve from there.
Yeah. I love that. It's definitely critical and key for everyone. Earlier, same analogy, everybody's got to be rowing in the same boat. And if we want to see long-term growth and see evolvement in what we're utilizing it for, as you said, as a revenue tool, I think it's a game changer for sure. So with all of that being said, what role can SmartBug play in helping teams transition or optimize HubSpot?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we're here to, as the world's largest, most decorated HubSpot partner, we're here to help you with anything that comes up with HubSpot. But specifically in the staffing space, I think about a few things. One is, a translation partner. Like the CRM, when you turn on HubSpot, let's say if you're buying HubSpot the first time, you turn it on, right? You can definitely use it right out of the box. But there are some nuanced things in the staffing space. And I think every person in the staffing world today would say, does HubSpot have some sort of like template from a staffing perspective? And that's where really SmartBug can help you, where we can say, hey, we're in thousands of HubSpot portals at any given moment. We have dozens, if not hundreds, of staffing folks that we've worked with over the years. It may not be I'll press a button, the template's there, but at least to help you translate hey, what's, staffing world into HubSpot, right? How do we translate it into business goals? How do we translate it into the more placements? How do we do the faster fill times? Like all of those things, we can help you translate that world into HubSpot. The other thing I think would be customization, HubSpot, and this kind of goes back to the ATSs too. A lot of the ATSs are really hard to customize. Like they don't give you
Yes.
access to like the back end of it. And HubSpot does so in a guardrail type way. I say it's like bowling with bumpers. It's really hard to gutter the ball when you have the bumpers in there. You might be able to find a way, but for the most part, you're not going to gutter the ball, right? HubSpot gives you those guardrails. HubSpot gives you those, but within those guardrails, HubSpot gives you a lot of room to be able to customize HubSpot. So, I think about things like custom objects, like for staffing, it's very common to see things like job orders or candidates, and maybe you're sitting in a HubSpot instance today where you just have the starter or the professional tools. The way that HubSpot has adjusted their pricing model, it really does make it a lot easier typically to move into that enterprise level where you can do some of those things around like more customization, custom objects, better automation specific to to staffing. And I would say the last thing around SmartBug, like we're really good at helping you with ongoing optimization. I want to back up here for a second. There's a lot of folks who purchase HubSpot and they go, "Hey, I want to have some sort of HubSpot administrator." And as somebody who used to work at HubSpot, now works at with awesome people like you, Alexandra at SmartBug. I have a little bit of a caveat here. I'm looking for that unicorn for SmartBug. Alexandra's looking for that unicorn that knows HubSpot. There are 7,000 partners in the HubSpot ecosystem that are looking for that unicorn. There are 285,000 HubSpot customers that are also looking for that unicorn. There are people at HubSpot. There's 8,000 plus employees at HubSpot. They are always looking for that unicorn too. There's just not enough talent in the ecosystem right now. And so if you can lean into a partner who knows that space, man, it really does go a long way for you. And from a SmartBug perspective, we're happy to be your HubSpot administrator. You can fully offload that whole administration to us. Again, everything from consulting all the way to full on white glove build out for you, tie in a nice, neat bow and ship it to you. So, helping you with all those on everything that we've talked about today, our folks are ready on standby, can usually jump in within a couple of weeks to be able to help you, make your dreams come true.
Yes. Love this. Where were you in 2014? I started my staffing
I
career.
was in the staffing world. Yes, I was right there with you.
I love it. Well, thanks so much for your time today, Casey. Your expertise is unmatched. It's been great chatting with you. It's just the experience and knowledge that you bring to the table really paints a really good picture for what staffing agencies and staffing leaders can really utilize a smart CRM like HubSpot for. Really kind of shifting that mindset of there is tools that can work really well with your workflows. If you're scared of adoption, link up with SmartBug. Let's talk about that. What are your pain points? What are your fears? Let's really dig in and dive into that. And I love how you've really created that landscape to be more digestible. It's easy to understand and really jump in if you're someone that's new or fearful of using a CRM.
Thank you. Well, it's been a pleasure to hang out with you, and SmartBug's always here to help. Definitely reach out to me, Alexandra. We would love to, help you again make your HubSpot dreams or HubSpot wildest dreams come true.
Yeah.
But thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
If you feel like your CRM is more of a data graveyard than a growth engine, it's time to reset. We've helped staffing firms of all sizes, like Casey has mentioned, make the switch to HubSpot and see results fast. So check out the link in the description to connect with our team, and we'll talk to you guys next time.